Hey, y'all, Scott here. I think you ought to consider subscribing to The Future of Freedom, the journal of the Future Freedom Foundation, in print or online. The Future of Freedom features the best writers in the libertarian movement, the fearless Jacob Hornberger, individualist anarchist Sheldon Richman, and crusading journalist Jim Bovard, along with Anthony Gregory, Wendy McElroy, Tim Kelly, Richard Ebling, and many more. And the July issue features one by your favorite radio host on America's Middle East policy, entitled Stupidity or the Plan. So head on over to fff.org/subscribe and sign up for The Future of Freedom in print or online. That's fff.org/subscribe. And tell them Scott sent you.
All right, y'all. Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Scott Horton. It's the Scott Horton Show. My website is scotthorton.org. And you can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at /Scott Horton Show. All right. First guest up today is the great Pepe Escobar from the Asia Times. That's atimes.com. His latest piece is Qatar's love affair with Syria. Welcome back to the show, Pepe. How the hell are you?
Hey, man. How you doing? Greetings from Hong Kong.
In Hong Kong again. Okay, very good. Good to talk to you. Hope everything's good there.
Yes, I got a guest here. His name is Edward.
Oh, y'all been hanging out, huh?
Exactly. We're hitting the nightlife in one shot.
All right. So let's talk about the war in Syria. Before we get to Qatar and who all's backing who and all this deep politics stuff, first of all, let's just talk about the state of the war as it exists now. What, 2 years ago? Well, maybe 1 year ago, we had a conversation that was along the lines of, yeah, but the government already took back Homs, and so haven't the rebels already lost? And then I guess the rebels took Homs back from the government since then, but now the government has taken Homs back again. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. And they're going towards Aleppo. This Battle of Aleppo has been brewing for a while now. It's going to take a while because these are 2 or 3 suburbs of Aleppo. But it's since what happened in Qusayr, when they took Qusayr back from the rebels about 3 weeks ago, almost 4 weeks ago, it's been steady. We don't know what's going to happen on the ground from now on because you have to see what's going on in Qatar at the moment. It's completely crazy. Virtually from one day to another, they are losing on all fronts. We know what's happening in Egypt, right? The emir, he wrote like 12 billion or 13 billion US dollars in checks to the Qatar, to the Egyptians, for the past year or so for nothing. They lost the Muslim Brotherhood in power in Egypt. Their betting on the Muslim Brotherhood taking power in Syria is shaky, to say the least, at the moment. We have the new boy emir, which, depending on who you talk to in the Middle East, people will tell you, look, you know what really happened? There was so much pressure from the House of Saud that the emir had to resign, and the boy emir, who's very close to some very important intelligence figures in the House of Saud, now is in charge. So this means that Saudi Arabia is taking over everything all over again. Not to mention, in terms of media, that Al Jazeera is going down the drain fast. So we already have 90% of Arab media controlled by the Saudis. Soon we're going to have the whole thing as it was until Al Jazeera was founded, right? So when you translate this on the ground in Syria, most of the weaponizing of these different strands of the unfree Syria army, gang, mercenary, racket, whatever, friends of Hillary, friends of Obama, whatever you want to call them, went through Qatar. The money came from Qatar. They had they still have, I still assume they are still on the ground, special forces on the ground training some of these militias. What's going to happen now? Is the boy emir going to back down and concentrate on in what's going on inside Qatar? Some sort of, Gulf-style liberalizing in the long run, more investment. In fact, more investment in Europe, because the former prime minister, the guy who heads the Qatar Investment Authority, is going to live in London from now on, and will keep on buying half of Europe, as they were been doing for the past the 3 or 4 years, right? So maybe if we have Qatar pulling back a little from Syria, who is going to be on the forefront once again? Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia, they are arming the Salafists, which are even more hardcore than some of the militias of the Free Syrian Army. And, of course, the Salafists have a very good connection with our jihadi friends, the Al-Nusra Front. So this is what's going to be playing out in the next few weeks, roughly, Scott. So I think we are in a transition phase at the moment.
All right. So now here's the thing. Just to kind of recap, make sure I understand it. You're saying that, well, I guess where the Saudis have been backing the al-Nusra guys, the Qataris have been backing the Muslim Brotherhood, just like they've been backing them in Egypt. And but this was pissing off the Saudis so much that they decided they put so much pressure on Qatar that Al-Thani, the despot, I don't know if he called himself a sultan or emir or king or what, he had to step down.
Emir.
Emir, there you go. What a great name for a despotism.
Absolutely.
Call me Emir. Anyway, so and then, well, or sultan. I think that's probably the coolest one. I'd want to be a sultan as long as I'm lording it over people with a big curved
you want
sword.
to be an Erdogan character, Scott.
Yeah, I'd have a really funny hat too. Anyway, so the Saudis get rid of him because they don't want the Muslim Brotherhood. They want the al-Nusra guys, and so now that their son is in charge, it doesn't sound like you're saying it's really going to be probably a decrease in support, just a change in who gets supported. Now it's going to be the worst of the worst, even more than before. But if I understood right, the Muslim Brotherhood wasn't getting much done in the Syrian war anyway. It's been the al-Nusra guys mostly the whole time.
Absolutely. First of all, because the Muslim Brotherhood in Syria, they don't have fighting forces. The fighting forces are, like we talked about this a lot, these Iraqi commanders that were back and forth in the desert with battle experience against the Americans, of course.
Young men.
Mercenaries from all over. Yeah, sure. And this enormous collection of mercenaries apparently they come from 60 different countries. This collection of Islamists a la Afghan jihad in the 1980s. But the numbers, we still don't have a precise number. A lot of people talk about 5,000 to 6,000. Other sources tell us, look, it's probably around 10,000. It's still not much compared to the standard, the Syrian Arab army, Bashar al-Assad's forces. They may have on the ground at the moment at least 100,000 or 120,000 heavily armed tanks, aircraft, you name it. So obviously this small band of mercenaries, guerrillas, whatever, they will never win that war in Syria, especially because that's something we talked about a lot as well. They don't have the support of the big cities. And I'm not even talking about Damascus and Aleppo where they don't have support, but even intermediate cities, mid-sized cities in Syria, they saw what these guys were doing, especially in Aleppo when they took over parts of Aleppo, and they don't want that. They don't, of course, nowadays it's crazy. Everybody in Syria, especially the working middle class, they know they are caught in a crossfire. They are absolutely fed up and horrified by the war. They want this thing to end. They want a political solution. They know that the outside actors don't want that. America, Britain, France, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar. they started to they supported even more the Russian position because it's incredible. But Putin's the only one that's been talking. Let's sit down and work out a political solution, right? And now they're starting to be afraid of what the Saudis, which now are let loose and very emboldened by their success in Egypt, where they practically bought a new government for Egypt. What are they going to do with their lots of money going to Egypt? Lots of money will go probably to fighting forces in Syria from now on, especially from the Saudis. And now that the friends of Hillary, friends of Obama, Syrian National Council, that that now they had the third guy in 3 or 4 months that resigned as a leader. They, as soon as they get appointed, they stay there for 2 or 3 weeks, and then they resign because it's absolutely impossible. They're not leading anything. They are leading a motley crew of opportunists, people who are there for the money because they're getting paid by the Qataris, they're getting paid by the Saudis, even by the Turks. So, and this does not translate in anything viable. Politically, forget it, and even militarily. Especially after the past 6-7 weeks with the government offensive, and just to finish this point, Scott, I was reading something extraordinary. What Putin told the leaders at the G8 in Northern Ireland. This was not reported in the U.S. at all, but a diplomat started circulating the full speech by Putin on the table, addressing each of the participants directly, Obama, David Cameron, Hollande, and all that. And he scolded them and said, are you absolutely crazy? He talking to Obama directly. You went to Afghanistan to fight Al-Qaeda, and now you're fighting with Al-Qaeda in Syria. You want these people to take over the government against Assad? And then he talked directly to Cameron and Hollande. And the best thing, the clinchers, at the end, Angela Merkel corroborated every single word that Putin said. She said, there's no fucking way we're going to have this weaponizing of the so-called rebels in Syria. Germany is going to fight against it to the last minute. We want a political solution just like the Russians want. Otherwise, we're going to have jihadists at our doors inside the European Union in no time. It's absolutely obvious, right? But try explaining this to the Obama administration.
Well, you know what? Let me ask you about that. I think this is such an important point, and it's, I just don't know what to make of it, Pepe. I'm going to leave it to you. I read a thing by Henry Kissinger saying, stay out of this stupid war. This is horrible and crazy and stupid. And the American policymakers who want to do this, I'm very roughly paraphrasing Kissinger. Not very. I'm roughly paraphrasing. This is his argument. He's saying, what Kissinger is saying is that the Americans are quite mistaken in their belief that this is the regime versus the people. When what this really is a sectarian war between different religious factions and, sectarian factions. Not that they're fighting over beliefs, but they're fighting over who's who anyway, right? And so, gee, America, power, you should stop making your policy around your mistaken assumptions. And I'm going, wait a minute. Does Kissinger really believe that Obama really believes his own BS about what war they're even intervening in? And if so, is Kissinger right? That Obama really is basing a policy, at least on the PR, that this is the people versus the government rather than this is some Sunnis versus everybody else?
Look, very good point, Scott. And in fact, Obama, because he doesn't know much about the Middle East, let's face it, he's no Kissinger. Kissinger may be an ogre, he may be a Medusa, he may be whatever you want to call him, but at least he knows how the Middle East works. Obama has no clue. So he depends on his advisors. And his advisors depend on who? The Israeli lobby and the Saudi lobby in D.C. So that's what the Saudis have been telling these advisors for over 2 years now. It is a dictator against its people, and we are supporting the people. If you look at what Saudi Arabia did in terms of international relations this past few years, if you trust them, you're an absolute idiot, right? But the decision makers in D.C. are buying this bullshit. This is what is so worrying. They, in fact, not only bought this from the Saudis directly, as they started to incite a Sunni-Shiite divide all across the Middle East, and now it's all over the place. It started in Syria, but the cancer spread all over the Middle East, in fact. Now we are having a Sunni-Shiite war in all parts of the Middle East. It's not happening, I would say, hopefully. It's not happening in Afghanistan, Pakistan. So it's still basically localized in the Middle East. And even in Turkey, it's also happening in Turkey. It's not happening in Iran for obvious reasons. Iran is 85, 90% Shiite, right? In Iraq, it's already all over the place. In Lebanon, 48 hours ago, we had this bomb, a car bomb, in a certain Beirut, exploded in southern Beirut. This was obviously planted by one of these hardcore, unfree Syrian army gangs. There's no question. That's the only thing that they know how to do nowadays. Because they cannot win a single battle, they are resorting to those Al-Qaeda in Iraq tactics, which is what? Car bombs and suicide bombers, essentially. And now, true, it has already spread out to Beirut. It's horrible. I'm sure we're going to have more of this, unfortunately. But it's completely crazy. It is a self-fulfilling, lethal prophecy, this Sunni-Shiite divide. It started in Syria. It's all over the place. The Saudis and the Qataris, they were inciting this thing from day one. The Obama administration, they bought this bullshit. And now, it's unraveling all over, and nobody can control it anymore.
Yeah, well, and we should stick to substantive points here, but I guess this is one's which is I saw George Bush on TV the other day, and he's just perfectly happy-go-lucky about all this. He has no idea. No one has ever, waterboarded him, tied him down like Clockwork Orange, and made him witness that this is what you did, dude. You destabilized every single country in the region. And when little children are dying, screaming for their mothers, burning, it's because of you, jerk. Nobody ever, ever, ever has held him to even a minute's account. Like, make him admit that, okay, yes, it is my war in Iraq, my personal individual decision to invade Iraq that ruined everything.
And in fact, the Bush all of these people should be in Guantanamo.
They are worse. They should be under.
Dick Cheney should be. The people should be force-feeding Dick Cheney every day in Guantanamo, twice a day, and that would not be enough. Everybody. Obviously, they had no clue at the time. It was still, my dad had a problem with that. He could never finish the job in Iraq, so it was up to me to finish it. And others were the Israeli lobby. We have to save Israel because Saddam has weapons of mass destruction. Everybody had this motive. Or Paul Wolfowitz, of course. The war will pay itself, and we're going to be the new OPEC. Guess who's buying most of Iraq's oil nowadays? China. Everybody knows. Even the New York Times was forced to put it on the front page a few weeks ago.
Yep.
And what we, the rest of the world, get from all this is this enormous volcano over there, and it's exploding in all directions, and nobody knows. And obviously Putin is extremely... Putin, he's never terrified of anything, but he's choosing his words very carefully because he knows how dangerous this thing is. The Russians are always looking at the map and they say, these guys from Aleppo, from northern Syria, soon they're going to be here in the Caucasus. It's 800 to 900 kilometers. It's very, very close. We don't have mentally, we cannot understand this, but for the Russians, this is happening near their borders, in fact. And they simply don't want any jihadists with jihadist ideas in the Caucasus. Again, they think that they more or less control the jihad in the Caucasus. So what happened at this Group of 8 meeting, that was 3 weeks ago, in fact, it's completely crazy because you have to rely on a diplomat to leak what actually happened inside, and you have one guy telling the truth to the others, and at least Merkel, well, she's not a fool. She knows what is the what the consequences will be, if not immediately, but starting next year or the next 2 or 3 years. All these jihadists, when the job is done in Syria, they will spread out, and soon they will be attacking the West again, right, if they have the chance, right? It's so obvious. I would say a fourth grader will get that.
Okay, now, well, so this goes back to Kissinger's point about how stupid Barack Obama is. I just had a guest on yesterday, or 2 days ago, Ben Swan, a local TV news reporter, who asked Obama to his face, hey, how come you're backing Al-Qaeda in Syria so much, jerk? And Obama, I'm paraphrasing, and Obama stuttered and stumbled for about 45 seconds, basically saying, and Hillary Clinton said the same thing a year ago last March, so 15 months ago now or whatever. And they've talked like this all along, and McCain now, in fact, concedes this too, that there are wrong hands among the rebels. And we're afraid to give, real effective weapons to people who are, after all, at least allied with suicide bombers and prisoner beheaders, right? Look, if we take them at their word that they want to marginalize al-Nusra and arm up more moderate rebel factions or whatever, they're still afraid that al-Nusra is getting all the best money and weapons anyway, and what could happen for them. So they're not completely ignorant about what it is that they're doing, but they just keep doing it anyway.
Exactly. They keep doing it anyway. And, when you have this channeling of weapons in a war, that's what it is in Syria. It's not a clean-cut operation. So you have, let's say, the Qataris buy something from Croatia. They have a cargo landing in a strip somewhere in the middle of the desert. So the CIA say, oh, these are the good rebels. They can get the weapons. Soon, 3 or 4 days later, these weapons will be in the hands of the guys who know how to use these weapons.
Sure.
And the guys who know are, of course, the hardcore Salafi jihad. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. So they will end up with the weapons. It's much extremely different from the Afghan jihad in the 80s, where most of the Mujahideen were a more or less cohesive force. There were 6 or 7 different Mujahideen groups in Afghanistan in the 80s, but they were all doing the same thing, and they all had the same combat experience. And, okay, some were getting more weapons than others, but it was more or less homogeneous. In Syria, it's an absolute mess. There's no control over these militias. Some people don't even know which militia is fighting where, how many people they have, where do they get their money and their weapons. So this overlapping on the ground, the attack dogs in the end, they will prevail. And it's going to be, of course, the al-Nusra style people who are going to get these weapons anyway. And can you imagine if they start doing this? They're going to start attacking the civilian population, obviously, especially in Damascus and Aleppo, which would be the only way to attack the installations that they would like.
But
the collateral of them will be enormous.
But isn't it too little too late now, though, anyway? Because, like we started off the interview, they're already taking back Homs. Yeah. They're going to Aleppo next. This is the as you put it 2.5 years ago or 2 years ago, you said to me, hey, listen, if we start seeing a whole lot of high-level defections from the military and we start seeing a lot of, business class Sunni Arabs switching sides to the rebellion, then the Ba'athist could lose. But that hasn't happened this whole time. And they're clearly not on their way marching to Damascus. They've had, there have been battles in Damascus, but they've never been anywhere close to really sacking Damascus and cutting Assad's head off or anything like that. And so now Obama's panicking because Hezbollah got involved and helped the rebels, helped the government take back Qusayr, or however you say that town. But
Qusayr, but that was only Qusayr. It was a localized operation.
Right, okay, but so Obama panicked and said, now let's give them more guns, or whatever. But that's only going to be enough to keep them going, not enough to help them win still, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And they're saying they're not even sending the guns, that the guns are being held up even by Congress. But I don't know if that's really true.
Well, this is what Congress is telling the U.S. media, but you cannot trust neither Congress or U.S. corporate media. So we really don't know on this one.
Yeah, I thought that's suspicious. Really the Congress acting as a rein and a check on the president?
Of course it's suspicious. So, I prefer to wait for August. Don't forget that they are... some people in the U.S. and some people in Saudi, some people in the Middle East, they were advertising this big push on Damascus in August. So we have, 3 or 4 weeks before this thing starts. Then we're going to see if a lot of weapons actually came via Turkey, especially with Qatari or Saudi money, who got these weapons and how they're going to use this. But I don't think there's going to be any difference on the ground. And by the way, does anybody still remember that there is a peace conference scheduled to happen? It was supposed to be in June. Now it's not going to be in July, maybe in August. Kerry and Lavrov were organizing. Nobody talks about the peace conference anymore, Geneva 2.
I thought it was canceled.
I think Geneva 2 is doomed. Yeah, it's doomed as well. And after the NSA scandal, I think Geneva 2 is absolutely doomed because it's all interconnected. It depends a lot on what the Russians are going to do with Snowden. This is the piece that I wrote. My last piece for Asia Times, in fact, yesterday was about that. I would say that the ball now is in Russia's court because the Venezuela offer was made officially. Snowden already accepted. So how is he going to arrive in Caracas? The only way would be if the Russians organize it or at least facilitate it. And Putin is trying to find a way, in my view at the moment, how to do this without angering the Americans even more. This is a really, really complicated thing because he wants to keep the high ground because he already told Obama in his face, you're wrong in Syria and you're going down if you're going this route. My way is the highway. Yeah. Political agreements. But if he starts helping Snowden, then it complicates the whole scenario.
And look, Assad has nothing to negotiate other than, you guys lay down. And the rebels have nothing to negotiate because Obama's already promised them that Assad has to leave power. And so there weren't, maybe America and Russia might meet, but their decisions aren't binding anyway.
That's the crazy. Can you imagine the President of the United States telling another leader of a sovereign nation, you must go? And then you don't back it up.
Yeah. He's such a loser, Obama. I'm sorry, we got to go, Pepe. I love you. Thanks for doing the show again. Got to go. Pepe Escobar, atimes.com.
Hey everybody, Scott Horton here. Ever think maybe your group should hire me to give a speech? Well, maybe you should. I've got a few good ones to choose from, including how to end the war on terror, the case against war with Iran, central banking and war, Uncle Sam and the Arab Spring, the ongoing war on civil liberties, and of course, why everything in the world is Woodrow Wilson's fault. But I'm happy to talk about just about anything else you've ever heard me cover on the show as well. So check out youtube.com/Scott Horton Show for some examples, and email scott@scotthorton.org for more details. See you there.
Hey, all, Scott Horton here to tell you about this great new project, Listen and Think Audio at listenandthink.com. They've got 2 new audiobooks read by the deepest voice in libertarianism, the great historian Jeff Riggenbach.
Our Last Hope, Rediscovering the Lost Path to Liberty by Michael Maharry of the 10th Amendment Center is available now. And Beyond Democracy, co-authored by Frank Karsten of the Mises Institute Netherlands and journalist Carl Beckman, will be released this month. And they're only just getting started. So check out listenandthink.com. You may be able to get your first audiobook absolutely free. That's Listen and Think Audio at listenandthink.com. Oh man, I'm late. Sure hope I can make my flight.
Stand there.
Me? I am standing here.
Come here.
Okay.
Hands up, turn around.
Whoa, easy.
Into the scanner. Ooh, what's this in your pants?
Hey, slow down. It's just my...
Hold it right there. Your wallet has tripped the metal detector. What's this? The Bill of Rights?
That's right. It's just a harmless stainless steel business card-sized copy of the Bill of Rights from SecurityEdition.com. There for exposing the TSA as a bunch of liberty-destroying goons who've never protected anyone from anything. Sir, now give me back my wallet and get out of my way. Got a plane to catch.
Have a nice day.
Play a leading role in the security theater with the Bill of Rights Security Edition from SecurityEdition.com. It's the size of a business card, so it fits right in your wallet, and it's guaranteed to trip the metal detectors wherever the police state goes. That's SecurityEdition.com. And don't forget their great Fourth Amendment socks.
Hey guys, I got his laptop.
Hey, Al Scott here, hawking stickers for the back of your truck. They've got some great ones at LibertyStickers.com. Get your son killed, Jeb Bush 2016. FDR, no longer the worst president in American history. The National Security Agency, blackmailing your congressman since 1952. And USA, sometimes we back Al-Qaeda, sometimes we don't. And there's over 1,000 other great ones on the wars, police, state, elections, the Federal Reserve, and more at LibertyStickers.com. They'll take care of all your custom printing for your band or your business at thebumpersticker.com. LibertyStickers.com. Everyone else's stickers suck. Hey, Al Scott Horton here for the Council for the National Interest at councilforthenationalinterest.org. Are you sick of the neocons and the Israel lobby pretending as though they've earned some kind of monopoly on foreign policy wisdom in Washington, D.C.? These peanut clowns who've never been right about anything? Well, the Council for the National Interest is pushing back, putting America first, and telling the lobby to go take a hike. The empire's bad enough without the neocons making it all about the interests of a foreign state. Help CNI promote peace. Visit their site at councilforthenationalinterest.org and click Donate under About Us at the top of the page. That's councilforthenationalinterest.org.